Welcome to Scott Fox After 9. We're now 1 week away from Christmas, and I'm starting to feel that vibe in the air. This year, it's a weird mix of excitement and exhaustion and financial stress. That's what it seems like is out there this year. But either way, a week from today, most of the country is going to get at least 1 day off, and that's good because we're all overworked and we all need a break. I'm going to be here with you doing pods today. Tomorrow is a listener DM episode. Monday and Tuesday, there's going to be pods, and then I'm going to take a couple of days off for Christmas. But I do have some special episodes coming out over the holidays. You probably heard the Silent Date update yesterday. There is going to be the Silent Date tell-all. That's going to drop before I return on January the 5th. Also coming out over the holidays, episodes on cryptocurrency, cannabis, and there might even be a few others. These are going to be good episodes. I hope you can check into them. I've got some great guests lined up for over the holidays, and I'm really looking forward to what's coming in 2026. A slightly new concept for the daily episodes, and then I'm going to get much more focused onto specific topics in bonus episodes that are going to be released. So I'll tell you all about it as we get closer and closer to 2026, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Right now, I'm looking ahead to tomorrow. 3i Atlas, that comet, is going to make its closest approach to the Earth, although it's not very close, and it looks like it's heading away from us now. So highly unlikely this is some sort of an alien ship. NASA says it's definitely an asteroid. I guess we'll find out tomorrow. The other thing is the Epstein files. They might drop today. They have to drop tomorrow if they don't come out today. That is the deadline from the U.S. government. Tomorrow and all weekend long, people are going to be pouring through those files to find out what names are in it and what names are not in it and figure out what's still missing. We know very wealthy people did horrible things to underage people that were not consenting. Well, it doesn't matter if they're consenting or not. If they're underage, they're underage. That is never okay. But there are people even who were of age who were forced to do things that they didn't really want to do. So we'll find out who did what tomorrow. I hope. There's also a chance this is a big fat nothing burger, and if it is, man, I think there's going to be hell to pay. I do not want to be Donald Trump or Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, or anyone else in the U.S. government if they drop those Epstein files tomorrow and there's nothing in it. That is going to be such a disappointment, and I don't think the people are going to accept that, if I'm being honest. But I'm going to leave that till tomorrow, listener DMs episode, and if you want to slide into my DMs, it is at Scott Fox on air. Today, you're going to be hearing from Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who wants to spend a ton of money, but won't tell us how much or when. You are going to hear a little bit of President Trump's address to the nation from last night. Speaking of nothing burgers, Trump came out and yelled into the camera for 20 minutes last night, and I'm not exactly sure why. But we'll talk about that when we get to that point in the pod. And we're also going to hear from, in fact, I want to start off with this. One of the problems that's been plaguing us for a number of years now is the insane amount of car thefts. Well, the Ontario Provincial Police, the OPP, held a news conference yesterday to announce the results of Project Chickadee. This was a joint project between the OPP and the Canada Border Services Agency. They recovered a lot of vehicles, and they uncovered a major crime network that was operating with basic impunity here in Canada, specifically in Ontario. Here is the OPP Commissioner, Thomas Carrick.
Project Chickadee targeted the entire chain of criminal activity, including registered freight forwarding companies and owners who knowingly facilitated the illegal exportation of stolen vehicles. What started as a local investigation uncovered a network of international reach, shipping stolen vehicles overseas to markets where they sell for double their Canadian value. This is organized crime on a global scale. And today, we have sent a clear message. Ontario will not be a source for criminal profit.
Before I let the commissioner continue, man, he is intense in this, but that's good. This was a serious problem that requires a serious solution and a serious force to investigate it, and it looks like the OPP has done a fabulous job. You're going to hear about the results of Project Chickadee in just a sec. I want to point out we all knew this was going on. Every one of us knew what the problem was, and there's very few ways to ship these vehicles out of Canada. They have to get on a ship somewhere. There's only so many places that can happen. I don't understand why it took them 2 years or 3 years to figure this out. But here we are. They've finally made some arrests, and we finally got people that are going to be held accountable. Let's find out what went on here.
Intelligence from FinTrack identified illicit transactions linked to registered businesses, revealing the international scope of this network and its ties to transnational organized crime. By targeting the financial incentives and tools that enable these operations, we strike at the very foundation of organized crime and create a powerful deterrent. Shortly, OPP Detective Inspector Scott Wade will share details of the investigation and its significant results, including the recovery of 306 stolen vehicles, the seizure of firearms and cash, the arrest of 20 offenders, including the laying of organized crime-related charges in Project Chickadee. These enforcement outcomes were possible because of the collaboration between the OPP-led auto theft and towing team, Canadian Border Services Agency, Equite Association, and our valued policing partners across Ontario and beyond.
They got over 300 vehicles back. I mean, that's great, but holy cow, how much hassle did we have to go through? How many people were terrified and leaving their keys at the front door while the police were figuring this out? That got way out of hand way too quickly, and I don't even know if we've fully got everybody that was involved in this. They laid hundreds of charges for this organized crime ring that was operating here in Canada. Great, I'm glad they caught them. But are they the only ones, and is the danger gone? Is it now a little more safe to go to bed and feel confident that your car will still be in the driveway the next day? Can you be a little more comfortable that when you stop at a red light, that car behind you isn't going to bump you, jump out, and carjack you in the middle of the intersection? Because that's the kind of stuff that was going on. Great policing here by the OPP and the CBSA. It's just, I don't know if we've really even made a dent in the amount of companies or people or crime gangs that were doing this sort of thing. Are all of the ports secure now? I think that's a good, fair question to ask. I'd like to hear a little bit more. But either way, job well done to the OPP. 300 vehicles recovered. It's too late. Insurance has already paid out the money on those vehicles. So now I guess we've got 300 stolen vehicles that are going to go up for auction. Now I want to go to something that happened yesterday in Toronto. Ontario Premier Doug Ford was joined by Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow and a whole bunch of bankers because they want to try and attract a defense bank to here in Canada. A defense bank. So a lot of Western allies are apparently going to create a bank where they can borrow money from the bank to finance their military operations. And it's kind of weird timing because just yesterday, the head of Canada's armed forces said, right now, the Canadian armed forces are ready for war. I thought that's a random thing. Who would we possibly go to war with? Are we at a threat here? Is someone going to invade us? Why would she say that? And now the Defense Infrastructure Bank, they're trying to attract it in Toronto. And apparently this is a big deal because it's going to employ a lot of people, although I'm not 100% sure why. So what we're going to do here, we're going to listen to a little bit of this news conference and try and figure out what this bank is, how it's going to employ 3,500 people, and how much of an inconvenience this is going to be in Toronto. Here is Ontario Premier Doug Ford.
We're here today to launch Toronto's bid to host the new Defence, Security and Resilience Bank. This bank is being launched at a time when Canada, along with our allies, faces a level of global uncertainty and instability that we haven't seen since the Second World War. In the face of the uncertainty that we're facing, our allies are investing to defend our democracies and protect our way of life.
What global insecurity? I hear this talking point from liberal politicians all the time. It's an increasingly unstable and dangerous world. Why? 8 different conflicts have been ended since January. There's far less war now than there was at this time last year. Are we at a threat of some kind? What is the major concern here? It seems like there's a real push for war coming from left-leaning governments, and I'm not 100% sure I understand what the conflict or what the threat is. Maybe we'll find out more here. This, again, is Ontario Premier Doug Ford.
Here in Canada, the federal government is increasing defense spending to 5% of GDP by 2035. I want to acknowledge the Prime Minister. I'm going to be heading up there tomorrow to speak to him, but I just want to thank them. They're doing a great job in very, very difficult times. And I also want to acknowledge all the government MPs, as I did earlier, Julie, who have joined us today in a moment's notice, and welcome their support for Toronto's bid.
How can Toronto's bid be put together at a moment's notice? We didn't know in advance that there was going to be bids for this? I know there's other Canadian cities that want this bank. I'm still trying to understand what this is, because to be perfectly honest, and this is just the way it sounds to me, when I hear defense, infrastructure, security, resilience bank, whatever, it seems like a money laundering operation. That's the way this is coming off to me and through all of the news coverage yesterday. So we're going to create a bank that Western allies can dip into for defense spending, and why don't they just spend the money they have? What is this bank for? And who's financing the bank? What actual assets are going to be kept in this bank? Why do they need such a big footprint? Apparently they need a ton of office space, and they're going to employ 3,500 people. I'm not aware of any other banks that have one job just to finance defense projects and have that many people working for them. What do those people do all day? Seems strange to me. Maybe we can get more answers here from Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow.
When I heard Canada was being considered for this bank, I thought there's no better location than Canada's financial capital, the beating heart of our country's financial industry, right here in Toronto. It is a natural fit. We're the nation's banking headquarters. All of the big five banks have their headquarters here, along with major pension funds like OMERS, and I wouldn't mention others. Yes, and numerous international financial institutions. Toronto is the second largest financial center in North America by number of jobs and skilled workers. Our talent pipeline is exceptional. Toronto's diversity of talent is unmatched. People from around the world come here, bring their skills, their expertise, and their experience, and their connection, and they attend the world-class colleges and universities located right here in this city. In fact, all the presidents are right here also today. The result is a prospering workshop ready to support the DSRB with specialized skills in areas such as risk, structured finance, AI, cybersecurity, data, and policy. If Canada is pursuing this bank, locating it right here in Toronto is a generational economic and strategic opportunity, not just for the city, but for Ontario and for Canada.
Well, the good news is Olivia Chow will not be around by the time this bank actually opens if Toronto is successful in landing this bid. But again, we are up against other Canadian cities and other cities around the world that would like to host this bank. But again, I'm still trying to understand, what does this bank do? Where do they get their money from? How much is it going to cost the taxpayers to attract this bank? And do we want this bank? Another 3,500 people downtown Toronto in one office building. Is that really what we need right now? We have a bit of a gridlock problem and a completely dysfunctional subway system. I don't know. It's hard to say. Do the people who make the decision on this defense spending bank look at the mayor and listen to what she just said and even take us seriously? I mean, she's right about the pipeline of talent, and I'm sure that young people would like an opportunity to get a job. But based on all of the elites that are standing on this stage, bankers, university presidents, politicians, I don't know that the average person who's just taken a commerce degree at the University of Toronto is really going to have a shot at a job here. Seems like there's going to be a lot of international jobs that come with this one. Let's get back to Premier Ford, because I'm still trying to understand what this is and how much it's going to cost us.
Thank you for standing with us. Because together, we need to stand up for Canada and our place in the world, including by investing in our defense. As we do so, we need to be using Canadian steel, Canadian vehicles, Canadian equipment, and Canadian products whenever and wherever we can. The Defense, Security, and Resilience Bank is going to be critical for Canada and our allies. As we make these investments, it will unlock capital, speed up procurement, and streamline supply chain. We're going to work together to cut the red tape and regulations to make sure things happen faster, quicker, immediate. And of course, it will bring major benefits to whichever country is selected, and hopefully it's ours, to host its headquarters.
Okay, this I think is what I'm waiting for. He's going to tell us what the benefit to us is if we have this defense infrastructure, security, resilience fund thing, because so far I'm not getting it. I'm not understanding it. Doug Ford has numerous times throughout this news conference, and I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm just giving you the highlights. But at one point, he highlights that protectionist policies don't work. He said it twice in this news conference, and yet he just talked about how he's got this real hard-on for Buy Canadian and Buy Ontario, which in itself is a very protectionist policy. We've got this new law across Canada that we have to buy Canadian and exhaust all other options before we can look international. Well, that doesn't really line up with protectionist policies don't work. They either work or they don't, and we're definitely doing them. So if they don't work, then we're screwing ourselves. I'm going to get to that coming up here. Again, I'm just trying to figure out what it is that the Premier and the Mayor of Toronto and all of these banking and financial elites are so excited about here with this bank. Maybe we'll get some answers here.
That includes 3,500 direct jobs once the bank is up and running, as well as thousands and thousands of more indirect jobs. The bank's host city will...
Whoa. You're just kind of glancing over that. 3,500 direct jobs working at a bank that only has one job, and it's just to hand out money to a handful of different countries. How in the hell does that work out to 3,500 employees? What are they going to do all day? What would a typical day in the life of a banker at this bank look like? And what are those thousands of indirect jobs? Where are they coming from? What are they going to do? Because whether the bank is here or the bank is in the UK or the bank is in Zurich or the bank is in wherever, I would assume that if we're going to be spending on defense, that money would get spent anyway, regardless of whether or not we have the bank. So don't say that that's to build up our defense infrastructure here, because that's not it. So where are these other indirect jobs coming from? I just don't like it. I'm skeptical, guys, and maybe you are too. I'm skeptical of governments coming out and promising us the sun, moon, and stars, and then when we actually get it, it's nothing like they said it would be. He's saying 3,500 direct jobs, and I'm struggling to understand how we could possibly use 3,500 people to do this and what they would do all day. And I'm struggling to understand where thousands of indirect jobs are going to come from because the bank is here as opposed to somewhere else. I'm really looking for a little more info here because so far none of this makes sense. I think this is one of those announcements that's meant to have a whole bunch of numbers that sound and feel good, but it doesn't really actually mean anything, and we're not going to follow through anyway. That's my concern, is that that's where this is going. Here's more of Premier Ford.
Immediately become the global capital of defense, innovation, and finance. It will be a hub for hundreds of new and existing businesses. Folks, we have over 300 defense companies right here in Ontario and support thousands of good-paying local jobs. We know there's a fierce global competition to host the bank. If we want Canada to be selected as the host, we need to put forward the strongest possible candidate, and that candidate is Toronto.
I don't know how people in other parts of even Ontario would feel about that. It seems like there's already a whole lot of banking going on in Toronto. It might actually make sense to spread the wealth a little bit, so to speak, and maybe consider like a London or a Waterloo region, an Ottawa area or something like that. I don't know. I'm still struggling to understand this one, guys. The Premier is coming out making a ton of promises here, and frankly, I don't get it. Where are these jobs going to come from, and what are these people going to do? So far, they haven't answered that question. And in case you're wondering, we're 40 minutes into the news conference here. Again, I'm just giving you the highlights.
But to win that opportunity, we need everybody in this room and across the province coming together as Team Ontario and Team Canada to support Toronto's bid.
Okay, if he thinks we're just going to jump on board and say, yeah, clog our streets even more and bring in more global elites and a lot of questionable transactions, I'm not getting behind that. I want answers to questions here. I'm asking legitimate questions, and if none of the media ask this question, then I'll do it again. Where are these 3,500 jobs coming from? What do these people do all day? We got hundreds of defense companies in Canada. I don't know if that's true or not, but what, do they go to the bank and get money? Like, these are businesses, and if we're going to be spending that much money, I would assume they have no need for loans whatsoever. Is it countries that tap into this bank and they borrow for defense? The whole thing is very, very confusing here. Are you as confused as I am? Am I missing something here? This seems like a lot of smoke and mirrors so far. Now let's get to the Q&A with the media. Maybe we'll get some answers to questions here.
The province will do everything we can. We've already begun the process of finding office space that could be an interim home for the bank, and we will also work with the bank to find a permanent home here in Toronto. Imagine this, Mayor. World-class, brand new building. Now, 48 countries from all over the world will be there, and then all the defense companies surrounding it. It will be spectacular, and together we'll make sure it's spectacular. Let's be clear, the benefits of the bank won't just be felt in one city or one province. If Toronto is selected as the host city, every part of the country will be better off. That includes our national capital in Ottawa, which has its own booming tech and defense sectors, which our government is so proud to support. And I just got off the phone with Mayor Sutcliffe in Ottawa.
Oh, I don't care. Listen, again, I'm still trying to understand here, and I'm giving as much rope as I possibly can. What is the point of this? If every part of Canada is going to benefit, what does it matter where the bank is? If the bank was in the UK, wouldn't we still all benefit? How does this work? Why is everything so vague? I don't know. If the whole point of this is to get people inspired and rah, let's open up another goddamn bank in Canada that has questionable motives and nobody's really sure where the money comes from or goes. All right, I guess. Y'all can do it if you want. Get your elbows up, but so far I'm not interested. I haven't heard anything here that says there's going to be a net benefit. I don't believe the jobs numbers. We're going to have to put them in an interim office while we build them some sort of a palace here in Toronto. I just don't get it. It doesn't seem to make sense. It seems like there's a better place that we could probably put this if we need it at all. And again, what is the big rush to get all this defense spending done around the world with only certain countries? Are we going to war?
Good afternoon. Colin DeMello from Global News. A question for the Premier and the Mayor on the location. Premier, you had mentioned that this might require a rather large footprint and that you'd already identified certain locations. How big is this facility going to have to be, and where maybe generally in Toronto would this go?
Well, just going through our real estate experts, and one of the great experts is Blake here. He's guessing roughly about 500,000 square feet. And obviously, we're going to go vertical. But we'll be working with the mayor, like we always do, and find a great location that's going to be forefront. So when people come into the city, they're going to see something spectacular. We're going to have to, if we're fortunate enough to win, house these people somewhere downtown in one of these beautiful buildings until we build the new site. But it's going to be out of this world.
No, we're not doing anything. If they want to set up this bank in Canada, they're paying for it. It doesn't involve taxpayer money going to this project. Not a chance. No, and absolutely not. Why is this an us problem? It's pretty simple. We have talent. We've got airports. We've got infrastructure. We've got, you name it. We've got it all here. You should want to set up here because it's the best place to set up. And if you do want to set up, we'll help you find some real estate, but we're not paying for anything. We're not going to pay to put these people. What are we going to rent an entire high rise for these people and then build them a bank or an office? No, absolutely not. He's trying to pass this one off now to Olivia Chow. Let's see what she has to say.
Absolutely. Toronto is the financial capital. We have the space, we have the talent, and we have locations. So working together with the province and the federal government and to various pension funds, I am sure we could locate any number of perhaps existing buildings or build new ones.
Okay, they can find a building or they can build a new one. We are not doing that. We've got way too many other issues in front of us that require taxpayer money. We're not doing anything here. No, absolutely not. Not a chance. I'm really skeptical about this bank. I really have no idea what to make of it. I'm not sure what this is or what we're even talking about here. This is more of Premier Doug Ford.
You had expressed some frustration before that you didn't feel that the Prime Minister was necessarily hitting Donald Trump back hard enough. Are you happy with, there's not really a retaliation happening at this moment? Is that continuing to be okay with you?
Yeah, some prime ministers doing a great job. Like I've said before, it's easy for me to sit back, and I'm probably the bad guy, and he's a good guy. But in saying that, he's sitting there negotiating across the desk or across the chair with them. But it's just my personal opinion. I have an incredible relationship with the prime minister, and I'm always going to support him when it comes to many things, but especially when it comes to trade with the United States. Let's not forget, folks, we're their number one customer, and vice versa.
We've heard this droning on talking point. I'm going to skip over this question if that's okay with you guys. If you want to go and watch it, the news conference is on YouTube. I'm not going to listen to more of Doug Ford drone on about how great a job Mark Carney is doing. I think Doug Ford is the only person in the world who thinks Mark Carney's doing a good job. We have no trade deal. None. We aren't even talking right now. The latest is Trump might come back to the table, might renew the USMCA, but that would mean we get rid of supply management and we have to cancel the Online Streaming Act and a few other things that are punitive against U.S. tech companies. I don't even think Carney's going to do that. Don't tell me Carney's doing a good job until we have something to say that he did a good job on. Because right now, I don't see it. The average Canadian doesn't see it. We heard nothing but tear down interprovincial trade barriers, and they're almost all still there. We were supposed to be our own best customer. Where's the evidence of that? We're supposed to get a deal done with the Americans back in July. Nothing. In fact, we aren't even talking. I'm not listening to another minute of Doug Ford drone on about how much he loves Mark Carney and how much he hates Donald Trump. We've heard it. We've seen that movie. It's an old movie, and it wasn't very good to begin with.
This is an incredible opportunity, not just for Toronto, and the headquarters absolutely should be. I think it's very clear, Premier, you made the case phenomenally. The Prime Minister has been a great supporter of putting this bank in Canada. This is not just an opportunity for the bankers and the ecosystem, the accountants, the lawyers, the consulting firms, IT, risk managers, cybersecurity, but for manufacturing jobs right across the province and right across the country. This isn't just about Toronto. This is about the whole country. And I think this is, as was, I think, well put by many of our colleagues here today, an opportunity for Canada to regain its place as a full-throated member of NATO, to do our part, and much like we did during World War II and beyond, that this will create opportunities. And the academic folks who are here too, they're a big part of it. So it's right through the whole chain of academia to our...
the academic folks used to be very war averse. They were not in favor of it, but there's a big push for war on the left. If I'm being honest, that's the way it seems. Anyway, that was the Ontario Finance Minister Peter Bethenfalvey talking about how all parts of the country are going to benefit. Again, if that's the case, then why does the bank need to be here? If all parts of the country are going to benefit anyway, why does it need to be here? What does it matter if it's in Canada or somewhere else? I'm a little worried about this bank, to be honest with you guys. This came out of nowhere. Mark Carney is personally pushing to get it in Canada, and it concerns me. When I look at all the global elites that are up on this stage trying to push for a brand new infrastructure bank, I just think, wow, there is going to be so much money laundered through that place. Holy cow. FinTrack's head's going to be spinning. I'm not optimistic about this. We're probably going to get it. Unfortunately, we're probably going to get it, and then we'll see the truth about what this is, and we'll learn why we needed to have it here, and I guess they say there's some advantages. I just don't see it at the moment, and so far, no one's explained it. Last one from Premier Ford, and then I'm going to move on.
So on the Defence Bank, Tina Yazdani with City News. Premier, on the Defence Bank, what will Ontario taxpayers be expected to contribute upfront or long-term to host the headquarters, and are there any security risks to hosting here in Toronto?
Well, what we're going to risk is losing billions and billions of dollars of investment. I look at an investment, and let's first win the bid, and then we'll talk about what investments we're going to have here.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Isn't that just everything that's wrong with government? It's our money. Full stop. It belongs to the taxpayers. Then you get someone like Doug Ford coming out here and saying something ridiculous like, let's win the bid first and then we'll tell you how much it cost you. Are you serious? So we're going to have to pay money. Clearly, we're going to have to probably pay in the billions of dollars to get this bank to come here. That'll be taxpayer money. That's what I'm assuming. And the premier didn't say it, but we can only infer from everything else that's gone on in this news conference. It's probably going to cost the people of Toronto and all across Canada billions of dollars. He says it's going to create billions in investment. Well, if they're investing, then why are we investing? How much does it cost to set up a bank? And again, where is the money that the bank is going to be using for financing coming from? Who's kicking that in? Will it be physical money? Are we talking crypto? Will there be a reserve of gold somewhere in Toronto? Like, I honestly don't get it. This is one of the most confusing announcements I've ever heard.
More than likely, we're going to invest in beautiful new headquarters that are going to attract companies from all over the world and over 40 nations. So it's going to be an exciting opportunity to increase our GDP, not only here, but around the country. And people don't realize Toronto is a powerhouse. Under the leadership of Mayor Chow, the GDP is 50% of Ontario's GDP is right here in Toronto. They're creating thousands and tens of thousands of jobs.
No, they're not. They're not creating tens of thousands of new jobs in Toronto. And no, Olivia Chow is not doing a good job. This is infuriating. You know what I'm concerned about is regular folks that don't have their critical thinking lens on are going to see the highlights from this thing on the news, and they always pull out the good ones, the ones that make everybody look good when it's this side. They don't do that for conservatives. So they'll have all these folks up there on TV raving about how great this is and the investment opportunity. Why can't we talk about how much it's going to cost and whether or not there's security risks to having this? Why can't we have more questions answered? I want to talk to somebody at Queen's Park about this. I'm concerned. I'm really, really concerned that this is going to be a money pit. I'm concerned that money is going to be laundered through here. And I'm concerned that taxpayers are spending billions of dollars to attract something. And the jobs, by the way, that it will create, I'm skeptical about 3,500. But maybe I'm not understanding what this bank does. They did a terrible job at doing that, at explaining what it does. But even if there is 3,500 jobs, they're not jobs available to regular people. They're people in banking and finance and commerce. That's great if you happen to be taking a finance or business course. Maybe not even business, actually. It's probably just commerce and finance. What about the rest of the people? What, are they just supposed to catch the next bus? I give up. Honestly, guys, this is so frustrating. So frustrating. Let me go back to one thing that I played earlier. Feel like it's worth hearing again.
Yeah, you know, some prime minister's doing a great job. Like I've said before, it's easy for me to sit back, and I'm probably the bad guy, and he's a good guy. But
okay, well that confirms they are playing good cop, bad cop. That's been the plan all along. Carney got too close to a deal that he didn't really want to do with Trump, so Doug came in and blew it up. It's the good cop, bad cop analogy. I talked about that a couple weeks ago. Now we got Doug Ford here again, raving about what a great job Mark Carney is doing. Everyone, you need to understand something here. And I've been trying to underscore this point for a long time, because between now and the end of January, liberals, people that lean left, and the mainstream media are going to do absolutely everything in their power to try and get the conservatives to not renew Pierre Poilievre as leader. Doug Ford hates the idea of Pierre Poilievre winning that leadership review at the end of January for the simple reason that Doug wants Pierre's job. You saw it during the election. He undermined Pierre at every opportunity, refused to support Pierre Poilievre. And now we're going to start seeing it ramp up again. Doug leaning solely or squarely into supporting Prime Minister Carney. I'm all for working across party lines. All for it. But at the end of the day, you can't lie to people. Mark Carney's doing a good job. He said it a number of times here. And frankly, I don't understand where he's coming from on that. Anyone can plainly see that's not the case. So for Doug to come out here and say that, I think that's very disingenuous, and I think he should just say what his plan is. Hey, listen, I'm running for Pierre Poilievre's job. I need him to lose so I can run, and right now I'm going to try and play it down the middle. I'm going to try and make it seem like I can get along with the prime minister and yada, yada, yada. I'm going to do whatever I have to do, kiss any ass and lick any boot I have to try and get myself in a position to take over for Pierre. Just come out and say it. I'd actually respect him a little bit more if he did, because it seems like that's the play here. This investment, defense, infrastructure, security, bank thing, you can feel however you want to feel about it. I'm not impressed. And I don't want any money spent on this operation. This is a very European thing. You know, we're not going in on this with the Americans. It's another tie closer to the European Union, and I'm not interested. I hope most people aren't. I don't want this bank in Toronto. I don't see the net benefit to Toronto. I don't see where it's going to create the jobs they say it's going to create. And I definitely believe we will build them some palace downtown Toronto on prime real estate, but taxpayers should not be paying for that. If they want to set up this bank, clearly they've got a lot of money. They're a bank. They should build it, not us. Leave all taxpayer money out of this. If they want to set up in the best place to be set up, they should set up in Toronto, but not a single penny of taxpayer money should be used to try and attract this bank to Canada. We don't need it that bad. And frankly, when I see that motley crew of elites on stage raving about how great this is, I instantly get skeptical that this is not in our best interest. It's in their best interest. Let's move on. Some of the media outlets are sharing clips from their year-end interviews with the political leaders, including the Prime Minister. Mark Carney sat down with Rosemary Barton just the other day, and some of that interview has been released. I'm going to play just a little bit of this. This is Rosemary Barton with Prime Minister Mark Carney.
Okay, so let me ask you what you understand Donald Trump's position on CUSMA to be right now. You had that meeting with him and President Sheinbaum not too long ago.
Yes.
At that point, did he say the deal is dead, I'm ripping it up? What indications did you get?
He did not say any of those things. What we talked about, the two presidents and myself, we talked about the process for reviewing, renegotiating CUSMA. We talked about potential timelines, although we didn't settle on specific timelines for that. The expectation is that it's going to unfold over the course of 2026. If I'm fortunate to be with you this time next year, we'll be talking about that progress. So that's the first thing. The second is I will refer back to what I just said and what I've been saying from day one. Control what we can control, what we can't. We can't necessarily control. The U.S. objectives do move around in these trade discussions, whether it's with the European Union, Japan, China, Canada. They do move around. Our discussions, my discussions with the President Trump, as have been President Sheinbaum's discussion with President Trump, has been there'll be a review and adjustment to CUSMA, USMCA as the Americans call it. Not that there will be any, as you just said,
leaving it entirely.
Leaving it entirely.
The sectoral.
Even he doesn't sound like he thinks he's doing a great job. I mean, there was nothing in there that you can point to and say, yes, there's our guy doing all those great Canadian things on a world stage. It sounds like he's being told how this is going to go, and he's just along for the ride.
I spoke to Pierre Poilievre recently. His message to you was that if you want a majority, you have to go back to the Canadian people to get it and not do it, by his words, dirty backroom deals. Are you comfortable getting a majority by people crossing the floor?
Well, we're in a parliament, and when we pass legislation, we need more people voting for it than against it. I mean, that's the way. Last time I checked, that's the way Parliament works.
Right, but that's not what you're doing now.
Oh, what a rude and condescending comment from the Prime Minister. It's very simple. The electorate did not give Mark Carney a majority government. So he's working in the background, actively trying to recruit Conservative MPs, and some of them are taking the bait. You heard Chris D'Entremont from Nova Scotia did it, and Michael Ma from Markham. I don't remember which riding it was, and he won't be that member of Parliament for long anyway. All the polling says he's now going to lose his seat, whereas he was on pace to be reelected. I don't know how the Prime Minister can, in this interview here, not just be honest. I didn't get a majority. I want a majority because I have an agenda that I want to pass, and I will do whatever I have to do to get that majority and get past what I need passed. The Canadian electorate made a decision to give him a balance to his check. We have an opposition that could, if they team up, bring down the government. That's how a minority parliament works. The prime minister isn't happy with that. He wants his agenda through. He thinks he's got a mandate, even though he did not get one from the Canadian people. So there is deals going on in the background. The prime minister has said, now he didn't say, we know from some members of parliament on the Liberal side that they're having discussions with Conservative MPs, trying to lure them over to their side. And some of them are taking the bait. It's sad. That's not what Canadians voted for. We could, in theory, maybe even end up in a constitutional crisis over this one. It could rip our country apart. Imagine that. You vote for one government and get a completely different one. Half the country voted for a conservative agenda, enough to make sure that the Liberal agenda couldn't be administered carte blanche. And then the circumstances change, and through backroom deals, Carney can get whatever he wants through. That doesn't sound right. 8.4 million Canadians voted Conservative in the last election. I'm really not sure how the Prime Minister thinks it's okay to try and recruit Conservative MPs so that he can get a majority on paper and pass his agenda. By the way, great job to Rosemary Barton. I played her interview with Pierre Poilievre just the other day, and she couldn't stop interrupting him. Every time Pierre made a point on a conservative value, she would interrupt and interject, and it was very, very hard to watch and listen to. But so far, she hasn't interrupted the Prime Minister once. So, great. Good for you.
They're Conservative MPs you would not accept into the Liberal caucus.
Look, if people come to me, I make a judgment.
Someone who is pro-life or anti-trans, would you accept that person into your caucus?
I mean, we're in multiple hypotheticals. It's not a.
So is that a no?
It's a neither. It's a non-answer to a.
Is there an active
question.
recruitment of MPs from other parties happening?
I think that there is a spectrum of MPs. With varying degrees of recognition of the serious situation the country is in, varying degrees of recognition that we need action, not slogans, that we need cooperation with the provinces, that we need to come.
Isn't that ironic? We need action, not slogans, which in itself is a slogan. The Prime Minister's being very dishonest here. Just say it the way it is. You want a majority, and you're going to do whatever deal you have to do and spend whatever you have to spend to try and attract some Conservatives over to your side. Some of the ones who are a little more centrist. I think it's very dishonest of the Prime Minister. I don't like the way he answered the questions here. I don't like the way he spoke to Rosemary Barton here. This is not a great year-end interview for him. Yeah, we are definitely in a serious situation. He's absolutely right. But his way isn't the only way. We've seen his way for 8 months now? And we're not even talking to the Americans. We're not even talking to them. There is another path to trying to save Canada. It doesn't have to be the way that Carney says it has to be, and that's just a fact. I'm going to get to a little bit of last night's speech from President Trump. He addressed the nation from, I believe it was just outside the Oval Office last night. He announced he's giving a warrior dividend to U.S. troops. Listen to this.
Along with the just passed One Big Beautiful Bill, tonight I am also proud to announce that more than 1,450,000, think of this, 1,450,000 military service members will receive a special, we call warrior dividend before Christmas, a warrior dividend in honor of our nation's founding in 1776. We are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way. Nobody understood that one until about 30 minutes ago. We made a lot more money.
Okay. It's kind of weird. I mean, I'm sure if you're a member of the U.S. Armed Forces, you're not going to complain. Yeah, I'll take an extra $1,700 right before Christmas. Just seems a little random. I realize that the U.S. Armed Forces are probably going into combat soon. Looks like there's going to be an invasion of sorts in Venezuela unless the Venezuelan leader steps down. And I don't know if that's going to happen. Is war there inevitable? I don't know. But that's a lot of money to hand over to every single one of those troops. $1,776 for each member of the military right before Christmas. Again, great for them, but that's a heck of a lot of money for the government to spend. Here is more of President Trump talking about when the rest of America is going to see a little payday themselves.
Next year, you will also see the results of the largest tax cuts in American history that were really accomplished through our great, big, beautiful bill, perhaps the most sweeping legislation ever passed in Congress. We wrapped 12 different bills up into one beautiful bill. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Under these cuts, many families will be saving between $11,000 and $20,000 a year, and next spring is projected to be the largest tax refund season of all time.
I'd still like to hear a little bit more, but either way, that's very, very interesting. It looks like the Americans have a lot of reason to think they've got some money coming their way when it gets to tax time. By the way, yesterday, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance was out doing a news conference, and he was doing a speech somewhere, and something interesting came up. He started talking about Bitcoin. Now, I've heard some rumors. I shared these with you the other day that, and it's not even me that started this rumor. This is actually one that's been started over in Russia, who are suggesting that what President Trump is about to do is roll all of the U.S. debt into a cryptocurrency and then devalue it so that the U.S. debt essentially goes to zero because while the crypto would also be worthless, the debt would be worthless as well. Almost like a great reset. Now, J.D. Vance isn't saying that himself, but he's certainly connecting a few dots. Listen to yesterday.
But I actually think that where Bitcoin is going is as a strategically important asset for the United States over the next decade. It's one of the reasons why President Trump, with the help of our great AI guy, David Sachs, it's one of the reasons why we started the Bitcoin Reserve, because we want to start to put in motion the strategic importance of Bitcoin for the United States government. We know that the PRC doesn't like Bitcoin. The People's Republic of China doesn't like Bitcoin. Well, we should be asking ourselves, why is that? Why is our biggest adversary such an opponent of Bitcoin? And if the Communist Republic of China is leaning away from Bitcoin, then maybe the United States ought to be leaning into Bitcoin. And that's one of the things that we're going to be doing.
Did he say Bitcoin is of strategic importance to the U.S. government? There might be something to that rumor. And by the way, it is just a rumor. And as always, don't take financial advice from me. You never should. Talk to a professional, of which I am not. There's lots of places you can get financial information. This pod is not necessarily it. I am trying to give you some facts and tell you some of the things that I'm hearing on the ground and from the various people that contact me with this information. But I have no reason to think that that's true about what Trump is doing with the U.S. debt. I have nothing to back that up other than I've heard it from a lot of people, and to be honest, it kind of makes sense that that's what they're doing. Some new opinion polls were released just the other day to put a bow on this episode and kind of circle back on a theme that I've been doing here over the last number of weeks. The latest opinion polls say that if an election were held today, it would be a conservative majority government. When you model out the latest polling, I believe it was a Main Street poll, and model it out, they're saying conservative majority. Now, the reason I want to point that out is because there is, again, a full court press by the liberals, by the mainstream media, and others to try and discredit Pierre Poilievre. At the leadership review at the end of January, they really, really want conservatives to turn on Pierre Poilievre, reject him as leader, and then go through a leadership race and hire somebody else that Mark Carney would rather argue with. Someone who's not as good at prosecuting the case against Mark Carney and this liberal government. The liberals and the media want Pierre gone. Let me ask you, if Pierre was really as unpopular as they're trying to make it seem, and they do nonstop stories, they do nonstop political panels, they bring in all these guests to say, oh, Pierre's done, his party doesn't like him, people are leaving, he's just done, he's ruined this party. I just saw an article about that today, and I believe it was the National Post. How Pierre has ruined the Conservative Party, how conservatives hate him, and they should get rid of him in January. Let me ask you, the liberals want to win power. If Pierre was really that unpopular, do you think that they would be trying this hard to discredit him? Do you think they would be trying this hard to get him out as leader? If you truly were as unpopular as the media and the liberals are trying to suggest, they should want to run against him because it should be a slam dunk, walk in the park. They're going to cruise to a majority government. The reason they're trying so hard to undermine him is because he is popular, and the polls confirm it. He would win a majority government. He would be the prime minister if we held an election today. Don't believe the media. Tune them out completely. Don't believe any of the stuff that they're trying to feed you because it's simply not true. Pierre enjoys robust support. Canada is going to be in a great spot when we finally have an election. And again, the polls suggest it will be a conservative majority. Could even go bigger than that. It could be a super majority, depending on how bad things get in January and February. Friends, I'll see you tomorrow for the Listener DMs episode. Again, if there's anything you want to weigh in on, I'm not necessarily right on anything here. If you want to call me out, if you want to correct me, if you want to know more, if you want to just make your point, slide into my DMs. This is not an echo chamber. I love your feedback. At Scott Fox on air. Instagram is the easiest for me, but whatever works for you, I will likely get it. Send in those DMs, and tomorrow Anna Almeida will join me, and we will take those up right here. If you didn't hear it yet, yesterday there were 2 podcast episodes, a regular daily episode, and the silent date update. Enjoy them both if you haven't heard them yet, and I'll see you in less than 24 hours. Have a great day. Oh, yeah.